Hello, everyone. Welcome to February 1st, 2021 afternoon devotional and Bible study. Before we get started, I do want to apologize for this going out as late as it is. I'm still kind of wondering if the 3 o'clock time is a good time, or 3:30 time, so people can do the schooling and all that jazz and get back home and join. But today it's kind of because my wife hurt her back and had to help her do some stuff and go to an appointment, and then I had another phone meeting after that. So just this ended up getting bumped. I'm sorry, but I do ask for prayer for my wife and her healing, and that she'll be feeling great in the next couple days. And the other thing that happened today, which is really cool, is I didn't even know about it, but I woke up today with a bunch of messages from some coworkers saying that it's my anniversary today of working there. So I've been now working for Youth for Christ, the door here in Orangeville, for 15 years. So that's really awesome. And the thing that's also really, really cool about it being 15 years working with Youth Unlimited Highlands YFC is we're going to be reading 1 Samuel 15 together today. But before we get to all the 15s, Blue, hopefully you enjoyed the Royal Rumble. I'm kind of curious if you like the men's or women's Royal Rumble more. I kind of like the women's Rumble more. And I kind of like the results more. But I really enjoyed the whole show. Except for the end of the Roman Reigns match. But anyways. Yeah, it's crazy. Been working there for 15 years now. And we're reading 1 Samuel on the 15th. Did not plan that out. It's cool. I like it. But anyways. Before we get started in all of that, let's take a moment to read Jesus is Calling, and then we're going to jump into the book of 1 Samuel. I got to flip the page. All right, February 1st, 2021. Follow me one step at a time. That is all I require of you. In fact, it is the only way to move through this space-time world. You see huge mountains looming, and you start wondering how you're going to scale those heights. Meanwhile, because you're not looking where you're going, you stumble on the easy path where I am leading you now. As I help you get back to your feet, you tell me how worried you are about the cliffs up ahead. But you don't know what will happen today, much less tomorrow. Our path may take an abrupt turn, leading you away from those mountains. There may be an easier way up the mountains than is visible from this distance. If I do lead you up the cliffs, I will equip you thoroughly for that strenuous climb. I will even give my angels charge over you to preserve you in all your ways. Keep your mind on the present journey, enjoying my presence. Walk by faith, not by sight, trusting me to open up the way before you. With your help, I can advance again. Now we're reading through the Bible verses that inspired that. With your help, I can advance through a troop. With my God, I can scale a wall. Psalm 18:29. And then, for he will give his angels a charge over you, and accompany and defend and preserve you in all your ways of obedience and service. They shall bear up on their hands, lest you dash your foot against a stone. Psalm 91:11 and 12. And then lastly, for we walk by faith, not by sight. 2 Corinthians 5:17. And yeah, even though I got a little bit tongue-tied there, it's true. It's so easy to look at the, oh no, what ifs, what ifs, what ifs. And it's like, okay, but then it's easy to stumble along the small paths today. And so often when people ask me, what is it that God wants from my life? Where does he want me to go? There's these big, big questions. And the answer most often is he wants you to follow him and make the decisions in the small things today, tomorrow, and for the rest of your life here on earth. And as you make those decisions, your heart gets transformed. Your wants for the job, your wife, whatever, are going to become his as well. And you guys, your wants and desires are going to start matching as you grow together, as you learn together. So, what school, what do you want to do? I don't know. What does God want from you? He wants you to follow him today and in this moment. Don't stumble on those things. Just trust him. Walk with him. Sometimes things are going to look bleak, like we've read in First Samuel, and sometimes things are going to look super hopeful. And there's one thing to just kind of always be looking forward, but there's another thing not to know where you're going at all, and then or to just always be looking back. You've made it through so much. And I've made it through so much with God. Today is a day where I'm reminiscing and I'm looking back more than I'm looking forward. But I'm still here, I'm still present, and I still am looking forward. But I'm taking a moment to appreciate the past, especially the past 15 years, which is crazy. God's done so many awesome things. Perhaps one of the weirdest things. Oh man. Sitting next to the water, with Rhiannon, as we're talking about some big things. I shouldn't have said who it is, but anyways, sitting with 18 next to the water as we're talking. I'm not going to share too much about what the talking is, but she's like, "I'm so glad that you kidnapped me." And that's because I pretended to steal a friend's car and she was in the back seat, and that's how we met. I did not see her in the back seat, and I was like, "Oh, my buddy left his car on and he stepped out of it. That's stupid," as I came across it. So I'm like, I'm going to jump in and I'm going to move it, pretend that I'm stealing it from him. I had to act quick. Did not see anyone in the back seat. And that's how I met that individual. That's probably one of the weirdest, awesome things that's been shared. But like, been able to see so many different lives changed. Been able to, I've had my heart breaking with so many people as well. I've been to way too many funerals. I've seen some really dark things, but I've seen so many awesome things. When we break the chains of injustice, like what it talks about in one of my favorite Bible verses, we might not be breaking physical chains of injustice, but when people are a slave to sin and we get to help people break those chains, as they're like, yes, I broke this chain of addiction. I've been clean for so many months. Now I get to see my kid. Or, I moved back in home and I'm safe. I got a job. I'm doing this. I'm doing that. Like, I have been so richly blessed that I am just super thankful. Okay, now that that's all out of the way, this is a Bible study. And I'm sorry that I'm kind of in reminiscent mode, but I am. We're going to be reading through 1 Samuel chapter 15. This is about Saul and his attack on the Amalekites. So when Saul first became a king, they had to turn to their enemies essentially to make their weapons sharp. Um, they had the Amorites, the Philistines, all trying to take over them, just hating them and trying to conquer them. And there's been a lot of other things going on. Saul, in the heat of battle, made his people give an oath that was not reasonable. And when he found out that Jonathan broke the oath, even though Jonathan wasn't around, Jonathan's his son, wasn't even around to make the oath, and he had actually already claimed victory for God. He was like, whoever broke the oath must die. And Jonathan's like, well, yeah. The oath was like not eating until they had victory. Jonathan's like, well, I ate, but I wasn't here for the oath, and like we won. And Saul's like, my word's my word. You gotta die. And people were like, no, he didn't take the oath. What are you doing, Saul? And that's just kind of one thing of his ego getting in and not really following God. And we're seeing those build up. And then, but Saul continued, and he continued to get military victories and successes. And now we're gonna continue the story now from 1 Samuel 15, verse 1. Sip of coffee. Let's go. One day Samuel said to Saul, "It is the Lord who told me to anoint you as king of his people, Israel. Now listen to me. Listen to this message from the Lord. This is what the Lord of heaven's armies has declared. I have decided to settle accounts with the nation of Amalekite, for opposing Israel when they came from Egypt. Now go and completely destroy the entire Amalekite nation, men, women, children, babies, cattle, sheep, goats, camels, and donkeys." So Saul mobilized his army at Telaim. There were 200,000 soldiers from Israel and 10,000 men from Judah. Then Saul and his army went to a town of the Amalekites and lay in wait in the valley. Saul sent this warning to the Kenites: "Move away from where the Amalekites live, or you will die with them. For you showed kindness to all the people of Israel when they came up from Egypt." So Kenites packed up and left. Then Saul slaughtered the Amalekites from Havilah all the way to Shur, as east of Egypt. He captured Agag, an Amalekite king, but completely destroyed everyone else. Saul and his men spared Agag's life and kept the best of the sheep and goats, the cattle, the fat calves, and the lambs, everything. In fact, that appealed to them. In fact, everything, in fact, that appealed to them. They destroyed only what was worthless or of poor quality. The Lord rejects Saul. Then the Lord said to Samuel, "I am sorry that I have made Saul king, for he has not been loyal to me and has refused to obey my command." Samuel was so deeply moved when he heard this that he cried out to the Lord all night. Early the next morning, Samuel went to find Saul. Someone told him, "Saul went to the town of Carmel and set up a mountain to himself. Then he went on to Gilgal." When Samuel finally found him, Saul greeted him cheerfully. "May the Lord bless you," he said. "I have carried out the Lord's command." "Then, what is all the bleating of sheep and goats and lowing of the cattle I hear?" Samuel demanded. "It's true that the army spread the beast of sheep, goats, and cattle. Spared the best. Sorry. It is true the army spared the best of the sheep, goats, and cattle, Samuel admitted. But they are going to sacrifice them to the Lord your God. We have destroyed everything else. Then Samuel said to Saul, Stop! Listen to what the Lord told me last night. What did he tell you? Saul asked. And Samuel told him, Although you may think little of yourself, you are not the leader of the tribe. Sorry. Then Samuel told him, Although you may think little of yourself, you are not. Are you not the leader of the tribes of Israel? The Lord has anointed you as king of Israel. And the Lord sent you on a mission and told you, Go and completely destroy the sinners, the Amalekites, until they are all dead. Why haven't you obeyed the Lord? Why did you rush for plunder and do what was evil in the Lord's sight? But I did obey the Lord, Saul insisted. I carried out the mission he gave me. I brought back King Agag, and I destroyed everyone else. Then my troops brought in the best of the sheep, goats, cattle, and plunder to sacrifice to the Lord in Gilgal. But Samuel replied, What is more pleasing to the Lord, your burnt offerings and sacrifices, or your obedience to his voice? Listen, obedience is better than sacrifice, and submission is better than offering the fat of rams. Rebellion is as sinful as witchcraft, and stubbornness is as bad as worshipping idols. So because you have rejected the command of the Lord, he has rejected you as king. Saul pleads for forgiveness. Then Saul admitted to Samuel. Sorry. Let me turn off notifications. Continuing from verse 24. Then Saul admitted to Samuel, Yes, I have sinned. I have disobeyed your instructions and the Lord's command, for I was afraid of the people and did what they demanded. But now please forgive my sin and come back with me so I may worship the Lord. But Samuel replied, I will not go back with you. Since you have rejected the Lord's command, he has rejected you as king of Israel. As Samuel turned to go, Saul tried to hold him back and tore the hem of his robe. And Samuel said to him, The Lord has torn the kingdom of Israel from you today and has given it to someone else, one who is better than you. And he who is the glory of Israel will not lie, nor will he change his mind, for he is not human, that he should change his mind. Then Saul pleaded again, I know I have sinned, but please, at least honor me before the elders of my people and before Israel by coming back with me so I may worship the Lord your God. So Samuel finally agreed and went back with him, and Saul worshipped the Lord. Samuel executes the king Agag. And Samuel said, Bring King Agag to me. Agag arrived full of hope, for he thought, Surely the worst is over. I have been spared. But Samuel said, As your sword has killed the sons of many mothers, now your mother will be childless. And Samuel cut Agag to pieces before the Lord at Gilgal. Then Samuel went to Ramah, and Saul returned to his house at Gibeah of Saul. Samuel never went to meet Saul again, but he mourned constantly for him, and the Lord was sorry he had ever made Saul king of Israel. May God add a blessing to the reading of his word. I need to take a sip. So in here, I do think there's a little bit of a stern warning of especially those in leadership to follow God and follow God carefully. There's a laying down of pride. And it was heartbreaking, um, especially for Samuel. And Saul recognized, okay, I heard what God wanted, and I tried to do this, that, and the other. And this is a really messy part too, because it's like, we know what God requires of us. We know that God requires us to seek justice and to love mercy and to walk humbly with Him. And it seems like Saul's biggest thing here, you could read it as Saul's biggest thing here is he showed mercy, at least to the king. But that's not really what he was doing. And you can see that in some of this stuff too. Saul didn't just go like, hey, King Agag, like, we're going to take all of your stuff. He plundered. He was making himself richer and more independent and more powerful. And he was worrying more about what the people thought and less about what God thought. So he put people before God. He put riches before God. We don't know why God wanted Saul to execute Agag and everyone else. It doesn't really go into that, and I don't really know the story all that much of what the Amalekites were doing up to that point in time, and why God was wanting to do all of that. But even amongst this direct kind of, all right, go and do this thing. You're going to be this swift right hand of justice. And Saul thought he was showing mercy. Agag thought he was showing mercy. But what Saul was actually doing is he was showing pride and selfishness. It is so easy for us to confuse pride and selfishness sometimes with mercy. And I think that's a really difficult lesson to have. For me sometimes, and something that's been something I've been thinking about personally, is that idea of like, well, everyone has their own opinion. Even if it's wrong or it's not based in facts, like whatever, they have their own opinion. But that's not true. Like, it is true that people have their own opinion, but when the opinion is based off of bad information, it can lead to some really dark places. And you might have a stance because you believe in a lie. Like, there are a lot of powerful news programs leaning one way or the other that are giving very specific information to support their side and make the other side look bad. So, yeah, I'm not shocked that what happened in the States on January 6th happened, because they were being fed spoonfuls of lies, and they believe full-heartedly that, like, Biden is a child molesting cooker of whatever, right? And of course, if you believe that, you're going to want to stop it. It makes sense. Saul, in this story, did just enough to give the illusion of mercy while building himself up. By, I'm a new king and I got power over the king Agag. Look at this guy. I'm now in control of this guy. All of his riches are now mine. We are growing. I'm a military might now. Look at everything that I've accomplished. My people like this, like me, and it's a show of mercy, but it's really a show of greed and selfishness and ego. And it's hard sometimes because we are the best at convincing ourselves that we're right and that we're doing right. It's hard for us sometimes to see when we have crossed that line. There's a good chance that I'm guilty of it quite a bit, and for that I am sorry. I do open myself up to criticism, even though I don't necessarily always take it super well, but I am open up to it. Um, but yeah, no, it's this one's, at least for me, is a little bit challenging. But yeah, let us pray, and I'll let you guys get on with your Monday. AJC, awesome Jesus Christ, thank you so much that we could read your word. You are the great physician, so I lift up Candace to you and her back, and I pray that she can start feeling better quickly. I thank you for the last 15 years working with YFC. Lord, you're awesome. Thank you so much for leading me through all of that, and for everything that I've gotten to experience and share. And Lord, you are awesome. Lord, I want to thank you for this strong message from Saul, that as he was putting other people in front of you, that he was putting, yeah, he justified disobeying you. He justified being selfish. He justified stroking his ego. He justified showing off his power over the king of Agag. He justified a bunch of things, and he convinced himself that he was showing mercy, bringing justice and showing mercy. And he convinced himself that he was following you, even though he knew he wasn't. He knew that he was disobeying you. Lord, give us eyes to see when we have convinced ourselves that we were doing something good, but really we weren't. We went on a slippery slope of justifying and going, oh, this, and this. Lord, and I lift up the firefighters and the ambulances as they're going off and doing what they're doing. I pray for who they're going to, and may they help, and maybe even, Lord, give them the skills to know how to best interact with that situation. And I thank you for them and the emergency services and the people that jump onto that bandwagon. Not that bandwagon. That's not the word I want to say at all. That jump on to that. And I've heard some of the horror stories on where they have to go. And Lord, I pray for extra doses of mental and spiritual health for them, and physical health, and that they know how to do that. And I thank you for them choosing that career path and to protect people. Back to your word, Lord. If there's something that we need to hear in this, Lord, give us the ears to hear and help us take correction well. You're awesome, Lord. And we know that Saul does not take getting replaced well, as we're going to be introduced to David tomorrow, I believe. Guide and direct us as we navigate through that in our own lives. This Sunday, one of the last points was have like a succession plan, because my pastor knows that retirement is coming up soon, and how he's planning on stepping down. And I pray for the churches in town that have had pastor shakeups, congregation shakeups, and as they're trying to get a new footing, I lift up our churches in town. I thank you for the body of Christ here in town. May we bring you glory and honor. And thank you very much, Lord. Amen. All right. Well, thank you guys very much. Have a fantastic Monday. And I'm so happy that I got to connect with each of you, most likely over the last 15 years. So thank you guys very much. You are amazing. You are a blessing. God bless.